Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Tilden Moschetti, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we'd like to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. Then we want to talk about your law firm that specializes in protecting syndicators, and then also the syndication that you're doing too, the funds that you're raising for commercial real estate. Appreciate you being here, bud.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to do a great show.
So where were you born?
So I was born in Hot Springs, South Dakota.
Yeah.
So you probably don't get that answer very often.
I don't.
So I think there's like three of us probably in the
Did you grow up in Hot Springs?
No. We left there when I was 2. So I have been back just to visit. But most of my growing up was in Arizona.
Okay.
So in Scottdale. We left Scottdale for when I went into 8th grade and moved to the Bay Area in California.
Oh, wow. We moved to California when I was in the 8th grade.
Oh, there you go.
Like right smack in the middle.
The idea was so that I could go to one of the UC schools, which I never ended up doing. But it was a good move for us.
Well, all plans, right? You just you do
exactly.
what you can. So you moved to California, San Francisco Bay Area. Where in the Bay Area?
So we first moved into Oakland, right in that Rockridge area, so on the corner between Berkeley and Oakland, and then moved around a lot since then in the Bay Area. So I lived there. I've lived in the South Bay. I've lived in San Francisco, the East Bay. I went to high school in the East Bay, in Danville.
Okay.
And so yeah, I pretty much know pretty much anywhere in the Bay Area. I'm pretty good at it. So
that's cool. So what was your favorite thing about growing up in Arizona and then also in California?
Arizona. Arizona was a good place to grow up. It's very spread out, or it was when I was growing up. So it was very easy to just get on your bike and go ride around and things like that. So it was kind of that idyllic neighborhood for kids where, my parents didn't need to really worry about me. I could go to the park and just on my own.
That's awesome.
So that changed when we got to California, but it was, I was older then, so it wasn't too much of a shift. I could ride buses and things like that.
Gotcha.
Growing up and then in California in the Bay Area. Bay Area is a great place. So it's got a lot of excitement, and there's a lot of interesting things going on wherever you go.
Yeah. Especially when you were growing up, right? Because all the technology was coming to the forefront, and wow.
So it was really burgeoning then. When I got there was, well before the internet, but there were computer stores and things like that. My first job application was to a computer store, which didn't end up hiring me. They called me like a year later to offer me a job, which was kind of strange, but it's like, well, you should have hired me back then.
Yeah, exactly. When I was available.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I got my first computer when I was 5. So,
oh, wow.
Nowadays that doesn't mean anything, right? For kids these days. But but so in 1979, I got my first computer.
Wow, that's awesome. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Boy, I would say teachers were probably always the most influential. My I always went to, I mean, my schools were great. You know, in middle school and things like that, I was at a grade school. Probably my third grade teacher was probably one of the greatest. She kind of taught me how to kind of see the world of possibilities in a really, you know, profound way. And then in high school, I had just amazing teachers. All of them were really just phenomenal. So I've always been good at that. And then certainly in college, I had great professors as well. And so I've always I've been so devoted to education for so long that it's I'd say probably always it's been teachers.
Yeah. So when you were in high school, did you play any sports?
No, I was terrible at sports.
It's all right. That's okay.
So,
Did you have a favorite subject?
I was very into sciences and math. I thought I'd probably end up in engineering, but life kind of took me in different directions than that.
Right.
But I, you know, I was very active in writing and things like that.
Gotcha.
So I ended up in college. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you graduate. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. So you graduate from college, or graduate from high school, pardon me, and you pick a college. Where did you pick to go, and why?
Yeah. I picked University of Oregon because the application was short.
There you
go. That I had applied to a few schools on the East Coast. I didn't get in. And so I was really tired of doing applications. And so I applied to U of O, which was a great pick. I loved going to U of O. I went in as pre-med. And about 2 years into that, I changed and became a theater major. Again, because of an influential teacher. It's one of my kind of regrets that I changed my major like that, but because I probably would have liked continuing down the other track.
Yeah.
But theater was a good major. It was okay. So
that was at Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Is that one of the prettiest places on the planet, or is it just my imagination?
No, it is. It's one of the top 3 campuses in the country, or top 5, or I don't know. It's a great campus. Eugene's is a great town. It's really, really, it's a small town, but it's a good city.
Yeah, and they've got a great football team this year.
Yeah, I lived like next door basically to the stadium, and everybody would walk by my apartment. I never ended up going to a single game. So they lived right there. I lived right there, but I never ended up going to a single game.
Wow. So in college, you start out pre-med. Was it your interest in science that made you start out pre-med?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in science, math, and I think I thought at the time, and still do, that I would have made a pretty good doctor. So, so that was basically helping people has always been kind of core about what I do.
So you make this change, you decide to go, which is it's a little bit dramatic, right? I mean, sorry for the pun, but
nice pun,
right? Yeah, I didn't mean to do it that way, but that's sort of a large shift. I mean, that's a real turn.
Yeah.
You're pre-med, and then you decide to pursue drama. So at some point, something happened that made you make that decision. Can you talk about that for a second?
I was kind of frustrated in studying pre-med stuff. I would do phenomenally well in the non-lab environment, and in the lab environment, I was horrible. I was it was always like top of the class, and in the studies, bottom of the class in lab. I never could figure it out what was going wrong there. And so I was kind of feeling this frustration anyway. I had a teacher, and it was the histories of theater or something, and I took it just for one of the liberal arts credits. And it really I liked the subject matter. There was so much there was so much interesting history that was going on, and so many things that were just kind of interesting to hear about. Most of that semester would have all been, Greek drama and Roman drama and things like that, which the plays themselves are incredibly boring. But the history of it's kind of interesting. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So you said there was a professor that really
Professor
had an
Grant.
influence.
Grant McCurney was his name. So,
so talk about him for a second. How was it that he had such an influence on you?
Well, first day of class, so there were probably about 100 people in the class. First day of class, he had us write down on a note card our name. He walked to the front of the class, or walked back to the front of the class as we wrote our names. Then he sent a TA to gather all the cards from us. And then he leafed through them all, and that was it, right? So it was like, okay, that's kind of weird. End of the class, he said, okay, everybody exit single file. He said to every single student their name. He knew every student's name, like by just seeing the cards as they were picked up, like that fast. So I was already kind of blown away that he was like that kind of genius. And his general, totally. And his whole style, his whole philosophy too. I mean, is kind of about the story, and the way he taught was just stories that made it interesting and brought the history alive in a really unique way. And so that made it just really compelling. I really only had like one or two other classes with him, but he was an amazing teacher.
Well, he reached you. You can tell.
He did. Yeah. I still remember his name, so that's
awesome. So you graduate with a degree in drama.
Yep.
What happens next?
So at that point, I decided I wanted to make a movie. So I had a couple scripts that I had written, and I was looking for funding. I went up, lived in Seattle for a short time, and then decided it would be better for me to move back to the Bay Area. So I moved back to the Bay Area and pretty quickly found a job in a production facility, video production. That was actually really great. A lot of our clients were doctors, so I got to still be in the whole medical world and kind of talking about things there. And there was a lot of interesting things. My boss was pretty brilliant, really crazy, but pretty brilliant as with all the crazy ideas. So that went really well. I only worked with him for maybe 2 or 3 years, and ended up then at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, which was another great place to work. That was probably my favorite place other than my work, my current work. That was probably the best place I ever worked because it was amazing with just the best, smartest people and just so much interesting stuff going on. And I was pretty much given a, free reign to just kind of do what I want. I was an administrator is how I was brought in, but I would go into the lab all the time and I would work on computer systems with them all the time. And, it was kind of like being in a playground for me. That was a really good job.
So how long were you there?
I was there 3 years, and I left because I had gotten more and more control over the computers, but the administration really wanted me more in an administration role, and I didn't really want to go that direction at that point. So I ended up at a startup company that I worked at for 3 years, and then I moved around in the tech industry for a few years. So while I was at Berkeley lab, I started my MBA, and I had intended to go. I had lined up with one of the professors at the campus to go pursue my PhD in astrophysics, and under him. And so it was that was kind of the direction. And I was going to do that after my MBA. And then I kind of got stuck in my head to go to law school. I was very interested in developing property at that time too. And so I kind of hit the wall of, well, I need to either choose one track or the other. I chose law school. It was probably a good choice because I love what I do now. Yeah, the real idea there was if I can understand the law, I can develop property better.
Sure.
So
Well, navigate
that was,
regulations, right? I mean, just
yeah, regulations, and just be able to, work with people to raise money to be able to do it. I didn't know anything about syndication at the time,
yeah,
but that was kind of like I knew that there must be a way to get money from people.
sure.
So
But if you can read the law, right, and you
yeah,
can understand the law and you can work with the law, right, that
yeah,
makes the whole idea of developing and doing the things that you wanted to do, that sort of gives you a path that way, right? So
exactly.
you have your bachelor's degree, you've got your MBA, now you're going to get your Juris Doctorate.
Yep.
So you make the decision to take that path. Where do you
Yeah.
go to law school and why?
I went to University of San Francisco. It was close. I wanted to work at the same time, so I
Okay.
didn't want to. I didn't want to quit work and go to school full time.
Yeah.
And so that kind of narrowed my choices, right?
Okay.
So nearby was USF, and then there was another school, the Santa Clara University had
Mhm.
an evening program. San Francisco was just a better fit. I liked the teachers better. I liked the campus better. Um, uh, More in California, more California judges come out of that school than any other school, and so that was all pretty cool.
Yeah. Well,
It was a
never hurts from a
yeah,
networking standpoint, right?
exactly.
You know, that's cool.
Uh, yeah.
So
So
did you work full time and go to school?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. How
So
was that?
it was challenging in that it was a lot of driving. Was really the worst part. There were days where I would drive 2 hours to work, the worst traffic from my home in Concord to San Jose, where I worked at the time, then an hour up to USF, and then at night I'd get to go home, and it was late, so it would only take about 45 minutes. So
Wow.
that's a lot of our time on the road.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how long were the classes?
3 hours.
Wow. That's quite a
Um,
commitment.
yeah.
And how
Well,
many
I knew.
classes did you have per week?
I think four. I think four. Might have been. I don't think it was five. I don't think we had school on Fridays.
Wow. So you work full time, you go to college, or
Yep.
law school, pardon me, at USF.
Yep.
How
Yeah.
long did it take you to end up to finish your JD?
So 3.5 years. I went to summer school, so that kind of sped it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and in the meantime, I had left work, or I was working there, or working in. By the time I was working in San Francisco, which I was my last year there, I had moved to. Did I move to San? I wasn't living in San Francisco yet. No. But I decided to go. I volunteered at first with the district attorney's office there.
Hmm.
Um, Kamala Harris was my boss while she was there.
Wow.
Um, so, uh, and so I got exposed to a lot of great things. I really got a lot of, uh, my mentors in the DA's office were litigators that let me like have court time, which
Wow.
was really awesome.
That's very
So I
cool.
had a lot of court time, and I really liked it. There was an adrenaline rush, and it left me. So after law school, I decided to be a litigator. Um, I really focused more on the practice of around real estate, but not like landlord tenant or anything like that. I liked disputes over values of property or partnership disputes. So that meant civil litigation about partnership disputes. It meant divorce, bankruptcy, anything that kind of touched on real estate.
Yeah.
It was a lot of court time, and it was a lot of um, uh, it was very, very stressful. So
Yeah.
I did that for about 10 years. Um, and uh, and it became kind of too much.
Yeah.
As time went on, I started doing some real estate work, like as a broker, got a CCIM designation, and because I had a fair number of good, commercial transactions, and I really liked that part of it. But I didn't really see myself as doing just brokerage, because it was kind of hard to figure out how you'd get clients. I didn't really like the mechanism of being a broker. So fortunately, I was kind of burned out on litigating. I was doing some brokerage, and a brokerage partner showed me a deal. It was a deal in Alabama, and he said, "Look at this great deal." I said, "Yeah, wow, that really is good." It was a property that was being developed. The developer just wanted to develop more. They weren't looking to really maximize how much money they could make on every transaction. They were trying to become a preferred vendor. So they just really were focused on how quickly can we make stuff.
Right.
So it was a great deal. And he said, "Well, we should syndicate this." I said, "Wow, okay. Sure, let's do it." I knew what it was vaguely, but I didn't have any idea about how to do it.
Yeah.
So he and I worked together, and I kind of figured out, okay, this is the legal mechanism for how we will put it together. What started as we thought would be a very quick raise turned out to be a 6-month raise. But we raised the money, bought the property, and all was good.
Okay.
So that deal went well. We did another, and then we did another. And as I'm writing PPMs for our deals, I start thinking, well, I hate my practice, my litigation practice. It was too stressful. Why don't I do this? Why don't I just, I can syndicate my own deals, but I also can work with clients, because I'm a deal guy. I like hearing what other people are working on. And I can, do the documents for people. And I really, and I get to work with a lot of syndicators, and I get a lot of deals.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.